As Rangers fans, we know that a goaltender is the backbone of a hockey team. At Abundant Wealth Management, we are your financial backbone, offering financial planning, wealth management, tax planning, and estate planning services. To schedule your free consultation, head to www.abundant-wealth.com. That's www.abundant-wealth.com. Abundant Wealth Management. Live, plan, triumph.
You're listening to Rangers Radio, your home for end-to-end coverage of the New York Rangers. With your hosts, Brendan Azoff, Zach Domino, and Steve Pappas. Blue Shirts fans, the puck drops now.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Rangers Radio. We got a bit of a mixed bag episode here today. It's myself and Zook. Brendan's got a big boy job, so he's got to be held down at the big boy job. So it's just the two of us miserably talking about the New York Rangers' last, 5 days of hockey, which, the title says it perfectly. Very bad hockey. They are unwatchable at this point. And Zook, before we get into how bad they've been, how are you? How's it going? How's the baby?
She's great. We're doing great. Life is good, except for the fact that I was at the Garden on Tuesday. It's gotten to that point where the fans just know. Like, I was there. I was actually there with my father-in-law's friend, and I've always wanted to go with a game with him because he's very knowledgeable and he goes to like more than half the games. We were just sitting there like there was no juice. Like, sometimes when we weren't talking to each other and you were just sitting there, you almost felt like you were on a TV on mute because like the stadium is silent. Not only are they bad, they're boring. Whatever you want to say about the first goal they gave up the first goal, and it was like they were dead from the beginning. Like, no juice. That Brendan says it all the time. It's like they dominate periods and then are losing or tied, and that's the sign of a bad team. Like, that's a sign of a team that just isn't good. Too often they're playing well and not scoring and tied or even losing like they were against this game. So it is what it is. The only, if you want to turn it to a positive at all, is, and I'm probably wrong because we'll probably be sitting here in 2 days talking about the fact that I'm wrong, but I think this is probably going to be the longest leash now for some of the kids. I think everyone knows at this point. You can even hear what Sullivan's saying, and some of the guys are saying. It is what it is. Like, they're just a really bad, boring team that has no offensive ability. High danger chances mean nothing because we either miss the net or we shoot it right at the goalie's chest. And you hear reports today about Panarin like almost softening up, potentially thinking about playing elsewhere. And it's sad that it's gotten to the point where that excites me. Like, the best case scenario for this team is to trade everybody. Like, to trade Panarin, trade Soucy, trade Quick, trade Trocheck, who I want to discuss because he's like the interesting one where, like, I feel like he's not the 1 year get rid of an older guy. He's like a real core, like for the next 2 or 3 years that you'd be turning the page if you traded him. But I mean, the worst case scenario is going for it, trading a first, because there's no one player that we're going to get for what we're willing to get up that's going to change this team. I think we both believe that. If you're adding to maybe scrape away on the second wild card and losing in the first round. And then it's literally the Rangers in that cycle of no first round pick because we gave it up for a guy who's either here for too long or was here for one season. You got to tear this thing apart. You got to completely tear this thing apart. There's no free agents anymore next year besides the guy we're talking about, Panarin. Your only path to turning this thing around is you just got to blow it all up, because we've said it for the past 2 weeks. As much as this team stinks, they do have some pieces where if they literally just tore it all apart, there's a first or second round pick in there. There's a few second round picks. There's the sporadic fourth and fifth round for a guy that's not going to be here. On top of what we already got for Keandre Miller, there's a chance you could be looking at a war chest. And look, your football team just did it. Like, the Jets, like, obviously, I don't want to sit here and say it's the best time to be a Jets fan, but when you look what they got, like, they got 4 first-round picks coming up, potentially 5, I think, actually, because 1 for Quinton and 2 for Sauce, a plethora of second-round picks. Like, that's how you do it. And is it going to suck on Sundays when they suck? and don't play competitive football for the next few weeks and maybe even the start of next year, sure. But they know their closest path to get to a Super Bowl is actually to go down for a little bit. And the Rangers need to adopt that philosophy.
Yeah, it becomes a bit of a double-edged sword, and especially when you see reports from Chris Johnston come out and mention the fact that the Rangers are looking to make a swing at the deadline, which
so stupid.
It makes generally no sense. Like, you watch this team night in and night out, and you understand when the effort's there. Like, I had a bunch of people, I had a tweet from the last game against Vancouver that said, this team just doesn't care. And if you try and tell me otherwise, it's you're gaslighting me. I had a lot of people in those comments mention the fact that maybe they're just not that good. And I think that is the problem. It's that they are not that good. So when their effort is not there, it becomes abundantly clear when the effort's not there. I mean, what is it, a minute and a half in? And listen, every team gets a bad break. Every team has a puck deflect off their own guy, or the referee gets in the way. But doesn't it feel so perfect that at Madison Square Garden, with the struggles that this team has had, a goal like that basically breaks their back in the first minute of the game? The Rangers are, I believe the stat is now 3-17 or 3-16 when allowing the first goal of a game in general this season, which, that's just the makings of a team that, we've seen them come back and we've seen them fight at the end of games. And, those are games where maybe they've given up a lead, but, usually when they are allowing the first goal, the game's over. And it looked like the Rangers knew that on, when was it, Monday night or Tuesday night against Vancouver. We forget that they even played on Monday and had that game against the Anaheim Ducks, and in which it was the Kreider game, and it was, that's the problem, right? They've played so many games that we forget just, how bad it has been. But I mean, that Vancouver game it highlighted so many things just in the first period. Because I'm going to be honest, that was the first game of the year where I turned it off after the first. I said, I'm not doing it. I can't bring myself to do it tonight. It's just so not worth my time. And again, we're right. Like, how many times you could tell how a Ranger game is going to go by the first 10 or so minutes of the game. If they score and they look active and they look into it in that first 10 minutes, then, you can sit and watch. You could watch a decent product of hockey for the night. But too many times have we seen the first 10 minutes, either it's just dead and there's nothing going for them, and then it's over. Or the first 10 minutes are good. They're really battling. They're getting chances. They're just not scoring. And then, boom, the other team scores, and then the air is let out of the building. How many times have we seen that? And how many times have they had games like they did against Vancouver, and games like they did against, San Jose, who, isn't as bad as we thought they were, games like they did against Chicago, where they play down to their opponent when they are an inferior opponent in the first place. That is something that just can't happen. You can't have a team that's not talented enough relax and sit back against teams that they feel like they're better than. That's just not the makings of a good team.
And like you even said, there's so many games you forget about it. That first 2 minutes on Vancouver was off the back of the last 2 minutes of the Ducks game, which was the saddest 2 minutes I've ever seen. Legitimately the saddest 2 minutes. We couldn't get the puck out of our zone. Even when we got it, like, JT Miller was just standing there for like 20 seconds. We couldn't get Igor off the ice. And then, we had that thing where, whatever, the ref gets in the way, we give up a goal. It's just poor hockey with bad players all around, and in terms of making the sum of the team, which is why you just got to trade everyone. You just got to get a team that is young, is fast. You got Perreault, you got Spence, you got a first and second for Keandre, trade Panarin for a first, see what you can get for Trocheck. You'll probably get a first plus because he's under a really good deal for a little bit into the future. Trade Soucy, trade Quick, legitimately trade everybody. Like, anyone that somebody wants, you got to be willing to trade. And the sad thing is, like you said, you see reports that the fact that they're even considering going the opposite way is so moronic when you watch this team night in and night out. Again, there's no player that they could get for the assets that I know Drury is willing to give up that's going to be worth it. We did it last year. We gave up Keto in the first round for JT Miller. And how many times this year are we talking about that JT Miller sucks? This team is worse, like in a worse spot than they were last year. And what we did last year, we're not happy doing. So why the hell would we do it again? Because to make a quote-unquote difference maker, to get that, you know what you got to give up. And it's the opposite direction from where the Rangers should go.
In theory, the trade everyone approach sounds nice. It's a very, very, very dangerous route to go down because there needs to be some glimmer, some semblance of hope. If you're just going to sit here and say, hey, everybody's got to go, including the youth, and let's just start from square one, then you have no hope.
I think there's enough guys, though. I agree with you, but why it fits for the Rangers is because there's enough guys that are non-tradable that I know that aren't going, that if you get rid of everyone else, there still is that. Like, Mika's still going to be here. Fox is still going to be here. Shesterkin's still going to be here. Like, if you lose Panarin, let's take Trocheck out of it. If you lose Panarin, Soucy, Quick, a few other low-level guys that you could potentially give for lower picks, that's not really changing the route of this. You play Perreault, you play Othman, you play Euro instead of Soucy. Like, we'll be worse, which is great, and we'll be worse with younger guys playing, hopefully. Knock on wood that, yeah, I agree with you. You can't trade everyone, but the fact that there's so many untradeable guys, JT Miller will still be here, that there'll be enough guys here to move that path forward while also stocking up, the cupboard, because it's bare. I mean, we have guys that are super old that aren't good with no prospect pool. And you talk about the effort, you can just go down the list of these guys. Like, there's guys that aren't made to play on a bad team. Like, you're for certain know that Panarin does not want to be on a team that's in this point in the standings. Like, Mika's at his point of his career. He's playing well, but he's at the point of his career. JT Miller, Trocheck. You saw Shesterkin get mad. It's just guys that when the shit really hits the fan, because even though right now you can get, the fact that they played 3 or 4 games is masking how bad 3 or 4 games more is masking how bad they are, because they're in the middle of the Metro because they have 4 games more than people. When it gets to the point where the teams have caught up to us and we're down at the bottom where our percentages on Money Puck and these other places are saying that we have the lowest chance in the East, these guys are going to completely tap out. It's going to get even worse when there's really no hope, because it's guys that are at the point of their careers where they don't want to be involved with that. They don't want to be on a bad team. They don't want to be part of a rebuild. That human nature for those guys are just it's going to be even worse than it is now.
And when you play this many games this early in the season, right? Yep, they're on game 34, 30,
they're going to be on 36, and other teams 36. Are on 32.
Yeah, they're on game 36. You have to look at point percentage, and where they sit right now is second to last in the Eastern Conference. So, like you had just mentioned, the amount of games that they played have masked the point total that they have, and it makes it look better in the standings. But you go.
I almost said that to someone on the train. Like, he was talking to, it was a guy alone talking to strangers on the way home, and they were talking how bad the game is. And he's like, at least we're still in the middle of the Metro. Like, that's what it is. And I chimed in, and I'm like, that's because we played 4. It's really masked how bad we are. Like, we're not in the thick of this right now. We're
last
not
place in the Metropolitan Division.
We're not mathematically eliminated, obviously, because we're less than halfway games. We're the worst team in the East. We're second worst team in the East point percentage. Like, we're not in the middle of the Metro.
I'd argue the building that I'm at currently hosts that.
But at least they got rid of their terrible GM.
That is true. That is it. So
worse?
we can I think we can sit here confidently on December 18th, and now that Kevin Adams is gone in Buffalo, Chris Drury is on top of that list of guys that are walking that tightrope on the general manager position. He was extended in the offseason, but I think the smoke, where there's smoke there's fire. That was a very clear, just didn't want to be sort of a lame duck GM in his final year of a contract this year. So that extension is made. Doesn't mean that it's a permanent extension. There's a very good possibility that somebody can take a look at the way this organization has been run over the last 7 or 8 years, and everything kind of I said it last week. Everything kind of points itself back to the man in charge, and you could even throw some blame on James Dolan at that point. But listen, the fact that the Knicks have won a cup more recently than the Rangers have won a cup is embarrassing, but more of just a fun anecdote to tell your buddies 5 years down the line when we're still sitting here through this rebuild. But
Dude, we're
many times have
last in the East in goals by 9 goals. It's not close. By 9 goals, and we played more games than anyone else. It's not 1 or 2. We're not second to last with goal percentage being the lowest because we played the most. We're behind the Sabres by 9 goals.
Yep. And, we've harped on it a lot in the last couple of weeks, especially with just seeing how good Anaheim is. But whether it be Chris Drury or whoever is the general manager for this team needs to look at their most recent trade partners in the Anaheim Ducks on how you sort of need to build a team in this era of hockey, not just the youth and the speed, but the way that it was done. It takes a rebuild, but it doesn't take a full implosion. You need guys within the organization that are able to, build and sustain some sort of culture. And, unfortunately, a guy like Radko Gudas is one of those in Anaheim. Like, he's not a great hockey player by any stretch of the imagination, but he is, you forget he's the captain as well in Anaheim, but he's a guy that has been there when it started to go bad, when it was bad, and now has been sort of reinvigorated with this new wave of young talent in the, Minchikovs, in the Carlsons, in the Gauthiers, in these guys that have shown up in Anaheim and then have been surrounded by, unfortunately, all ex-Rangers, the Kreiders, Trubas, Vetranos, Stromes, that have that winning experience that can teach these guys. And by the way, they do have a pretty good goaltender in Lucas Dostal, who
us.
Might be one of the most criminally underrated goaltenders in the league. I mean, he was on some bad Anaheim teams and had some pretty good numbers over the last few years. Now he's on a good team. You watch out. That's a guy that, if this Ducks team continues to sit where they're sitting, you could talk about him as a Vezina candidate, maybe not this year, but, in a year or two down the line. But I do want to get in. I know this is going to be sort of a truncated episode. For those that don't know, I am sitting at the KeyBank Center right now in Buffalo. We got about 30 minutes until warm-ups start. The 5-man power play. That is something.
I've been screaming about it.
That is something that needs to die, be buried, be dug up, and buried again. Because the Rangers do not have, and especially Mika being out for that game against Anaheim, and say what he's a good defensive forward. They don't have that same chemistry, at least defensively. Like, say all you want, Chris Kreider, he was a darn good defensive forward towards the end of his Rangers career. And when you were able to trot out a power play unit of Kreider and Zibanejad, then you could have run theoretically a 5-man unit if need be, just because you have two defensively minded forwards. Now you don't have that. You have Panarin, who, is very open, very anti-defense.
Watching him play defense is like embarrassing. To ever think you could put that guy on the blue line on a 5-forward power play is like,
yeah.
Look, I was all in on. So this is his first real bad move. I think everything else is he's doing the best he can. But like, look, trying anything is fine. But how? Like, I think I saw something that was 0 for 25 with 3 goals against.
Yes, they've given up 3 shorthanded goals since going to this 5-man power play, 5-forward power play unit, and it don't work. But if Scott Morrow's in and out of the lineup, you're not exactly sure what you're going to get from him. It's looked good. He's just so young. You're asking a lot of him, the quarterback, the power play, a first power play unit. So I get the where it is in theory. They just need Adam Fox back, and it's great to see that he's back at practice. And he was, snapping pucks around today. Obviously, I believe he can't come back until after Christmas, the way LTIR works. It was 10 games.
10 games, yeah.
And I think that's slates for after Christmas. They need him back desperately, but again, it kind of harps back to the same point that, they just don't have the talent, and it needs to be going in a direction that year after year, when that is a possibility, we've seen very clearly that management and ownership do not want to go in that direction.
Fox may technically be allowed to come back already. I want to see. 29th was his last game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He really only has to miss 2 more games, I'm pretty sure. But everything that I've read is like you're saying is that they're really going to reevaluate him after Christmas.
You don't listen. That's not a
early.
guy. You don't want to rush him back in the situation that you're at. knowing that he could be an Olympic get, like that's not a guy you're rushing back into the lineup in the situation that you're in.
No, not even
I'm
close.
sure, especially, knowing it sucks to say, obviously you want that person playing for your organization, but I mean, Mike Sullivan knows more than anybody that he's a candidate to be on the Olympic blue line. So, you don't want to hinder that as well. But let's talk a little bit about tonight's game. They're back in St. Louis. St. Louis is, again, one of the worst teams in the National Hockey League. However, it has not been a strength of this hockey club to play well against teams that are at the bottom of the standings. 3 losses this year against teams that at the time of the game were ranked 32nd or were in the 32nd spot in the league. So, it's a Blues team that, has some talent, right? Like the Robert Thomases, Buchnevich is, wildly, I could say overpaid, I guess, wildly overpaid, but he's still a guy that, that's a game against the former team. They got some guys and, their goaltending is the problem. So for a team that you said has 9 fewer goals than anybody else in the Eastern Conference, despite playing 4 more games than basically half of the conference, you're going against a club that has really struggled between the pipes in Binnington and Hofer. So
Hofer's bad.
It's been, this is a night where it goes one of 2 ways, right? Like how many times have we sat here and preached this year that these games are about as predictable as they go?
Yep.
It's one of 2 ways. They're either going to break out like they did against Nashville for their first home win, like they did against the Blues the first time at Madison Square Garden, or it's a game that we've been very accustomed to seeing where the energy's not there, the skill is not there, they're not winning these battles, and then you give up a goal, and then all of a sudden it gets, it's a deflated bench. So, we're hopeful that it's not the latter, but we have a lot of game tape to tell you that's what has happened a lot this year.
They have to win a lot of games in a row and quickly for me to shift my focus to, I always want them to win. But I want Moore to play well, and I want Perreault to play well. And we don't have anyone else, really. So, I'm just I want the young guys to play, and I want the young guys to play well. I'm so jealous of watching these other teams. And if you look at the top NHL stats list and you see all these, replays when they're showing them at intermission and they're doing, all the other games, it's obviously they're still the stars and there's all the names we know, but never has there been just more young guys that are taking over games. So Perreault's the only one we got forward wise. That's how sad it is. Unless you want to watch University of Michigan games to watch Malcolm Spence, who I think the excitement we have again is because it's so barren in terms of what we have there. But Perreault's got to start producing, and obviously he needs a longer leash, but I want to see him score a goal. I want to see him drive some play. I want to see him make some good plays because he really is at this point too good for the AHL. He's dominating the AHL. You've seen the articles. He's better. He's smarter. He's got everything. He needs to probably develop a little bit more physically, but man, I just don't want to watch a bunch of games where it's Perreault looks okay and he's not producing. I want to see 1 goal and assist, 2 goals, 2 assists. I want to see him start filling up the stat sheet, and I want to see Morrow keep playing because that's where we're at with this team. They're not going anywhere with these guys. I want to see the young guys play good. I want to see them trade away the older guys to get as much as they can. I am really all in officially for the first time after leaving the Garden on Tuesday about the rebuild. That being said, I'm going to watch this game tonight, and I'm going to root for the Blues because I'm a sucker like everyone else. I look at the standings. We're somewhere in there. But we're 16, 15, and 4. And without getting into the overtime point, I'm pretty sure we're 1-5 in the last 6 games in terms of wins and losses. There's always the chance when you were laying out the option that realistically an alien can watch this game and they're going to leave thinking that never seen hockey before, and they're going to think that the Blues are one of the better teams in the league because that's what happens whenever we play these bad teams. I watch these games with my wife, and halfway through the second period, I'm like, by the way, this is the worst team in the league. And she's like, what? They're running circles around us. And I'm like, that's what it is. It's a bad team that's also not exciting. Obviously, the goal is always to win, but if you're telling me, would you rather lose 3-0 or would you rather lose 7-5? Like at least it could be exciting. Like at least do something. 3-0 is
listen. You're paying your goaltender 11.5. You cannot be winning game 7.
Fair. In our specific scenario, but the general scenario is if you were losing games by 2 or 3 goals, 8-5 over, like 3-0's bad. Like 3-0 with ever really having a chance. Like people left that first period. Yeah, it was a good period. We had 3 power plays. Like we had an extra guy on the ice for most of the time. 4-1 against the Ducks. Take out that middle Canadiens game where we won 5-4. Our last 3 games besides that, we're losing 10-1 to the Blackhawks, to the Canucks, and to the Ducks. Like I didn't just say the Knights, the Avalanche, and the Lightning. I said the Canucks, the Ducks, and the Blackhawks. And we know before we lost 3-0 to the Blackhawks in that game, they literally dominated us. They just lost 17-0 to the Ducks. So we're just at the point where there's enough of a sample size that it's a bad team that, like any other professional team, they're not going to go 0-82. They're casually winning in spots surrounded by 3 or 4 losses. Like that's who they are. And hopefully when the schedule, and again, if you look into it, I don't know when it's going to happen, starts leveling out and this team goes from being middle of the standings point-wise to going bottom of the standings to match where they are point percentage-wise, it'll be clearer to everyone that this is what this team is. Because that guy on the train that I just talked about is the generic fan right now where they're looking at the standings and see that we're in the middle because of points. We played 100 more games than everyone else. This is not a good team.
Yeah, and before we do leave everybody, I do want to sort of get into that Gabe Perreault sort of conundrum that we're in, right? And we stress so heavily that if he's up, he needs to be playing top 6. He needs to be playing power play, needs to be getting that leash. It's a two-way street, right? Like Gabe Perreault also has to earn that. And I think that entails scoring goals. You can look good. You can look like you are impacting the play. But at the end of the day, this sport comes down to how many more pucks you put in the net than the other team. And for Gabe Perreault to really make an impact and really, this is going to be the longest leash that he gets. And for him to really solidify himself, he needs to do a lot more than just look good when he's out there. He needs to produce. He needs to look like he belongs, and pucks need to go in the back of the net. Otherwise, it is a trip back to Hartford and then more questions on how this organization has been developing its talent. So they have set the band loose here at KeyBank. I don't know if
I can hear it. Yeah. One thing I want to say, and then we could go because I know it's starting to fill up there. This is an analogy that me and you will understand well. Like the last thing we want with Gabe Perreault is a Brett Beatty situation where like he's going between both. And I guess you call it a quadruple A player in the pros. In baseball, I'll call it a double AHL player in hockey is he goes down, he dominates, he comes up, he looks like he's not quite ready yet. You send him down, he dominates, he comes up and he's not quite ready yet. Yeah, Beatty, the second half of last year was very, very good. But we don't want to wait that long for Perreault when he's like the only thing that we got going for us when it comes in terms of young guys. Plus, you see guys that were literally on his line in college producing. So it's not he's a too young thing. It's a young man's game right now. And what you said, you hit the nail on the head. If he just looks good for stretches of time and doesn't put points on the board, then he's just like the rest of the Rangers this season, right? Looking good for stretches, not actually producing, losing games. We're both on the same page. We got to look at it, and he's got to, in 10 games, 6 or 7 points, especially if he's on the top 2 lines. A game here where he looks like one of the better players on the ice, puts in 2 maybe. We need to see production from Gabe Perreault to at least make us feel something, because how often has our next guy that we've anointed just turned into a dud? And he is that next guy right now. He is the quote-unquote prodigal son of the New York Rangers. And I don't know how many more guys in a row we can go that we're putting our eggs in his basket. And it's not even like he just doesn't live up to his potential. They're bad. So like we need something. We need something. And we're not asking for a crop of prospects to come up and save us. It's one guy right now. And like, I don't know if he knows it. I don't know if he feels it. I'm sure everyone reads stuff on social media today. Like, if he's not good and we leave this year thinking that he's not good, it could be one of the worst prospect pools of all time at that point. And I think, he's young where no matter what, you're probably not going to write him off this year. And I hope and pray to God that he gives us something to look forward to. But production's got to be there. There's no more time to just look good and play decent and not produce. He's got to fall in line with the rest of the team where it's let's start putting pucks in the back of the net. We don't need another Connor Sheary on the top six where at moments you look good and you look like you never skated before when you get the puck in front of the net. We need production from Gabe Perreault.
Yeah, there are entirely too many Connor Shearys on that roster. And it's
up and down.
Listen, Radish is a great piece. Sheary's a good piece. These guys are great pieces, but, at the end of the day, they're not producing. And unfortunately, they've been thrust into top six roles. So a bit of a truncated episode. We will be back on Sunday, a full group. Brendan will be back. His day job won't catch up to him on a Sunday. I will be in a less hectic environment. You won't get a free concert from whoever is playing pregame right here in Buffalo. But game tonight at 8. I will not be paying attention in the slightest. I'll be here in Buffalo. So if you're on my feed and wondering where the bitching and complaining is at, it won't be there. So enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Enjoy the game, and we will see you before the Christmas break. Sunday, hopefully, we'll shoot for around 10 or 11 o'clock. But until then,
usual.
we will see you guys then. Have a good one.
Have a good one.